some things from last week. Last week we were talking about writing equations of formulas using points and slopes and stuff like that. In this problem it says find a point-slope equation for a line containing the given point and the given slope. Well, point-slope formula, when you get into higher math, this is the one that we use most of the time. We don't use slope-intercept form. Point-slope is y minus y1 is equal to slope x minus x1. So if you're given a point and a slope, it's really easy. It's just y plus 3 because it's always opposite of this. So y plus 3 is equal to slope, which is -1, and then x minus 4 because it's always opposite of this. Here, if I was going to write the equation for the second one, it's just going to be y plus 6. I don't have to put parentheses around there, sorry about that, is equal to 2x plus 5, but I do have to put parentheses around this one. Now, if they give me an equation that has 2 points, then I have to find the slope for it, and they want me to write it in point-slope form. First thing I would have to do is I have to figure out what the slope is, so I use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, so this would be 10 minus 8 over -1 minus 0, so that's going to be 2 over -1 or -2. So now I have my slope as -2, and I also need a point. And it doesn't matter which point you take. It makes no difference at all. Let's just take 0, 8. And if I write my equation, I have y minus 8 is equal to -2 x minus 0. Now, some people are going to say, but Ms. Shanklin, that's not the same if you use this point. Sure it is. So if I want y minus 10 is equal to -2 x plus 1, these formulas are the exact same thing. Now, how do I know that? Well, if you multiply through here, so I'd end up with y minus 8 is equal to -2x. Then I add 8 to both sides, so y is equal to -2x plus 8. This would be the equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's rewrite this one. So that would give me -2x plus -2. If I add 10 to both sides, lo and behold, I end up with y is equal to -2x plus 8 also. So I can take a point-slope form and write it in slope-intercept form, and I should, regardless of which point I took, I should get the exact same equation. Now, if you want to write an equation that's parallel or perpendicular, remember parallel lines have same slope. So if I was going to write an equation that has this point, okay, so I've got my point, and is parallel to this equation, well, parallel means it has the same slope. So now I end up with -2/5. So my equation would be y plus 1 is equal to -2/5 x plus -2 or x minus 2, either one. Now this one perpendicular to this line, well, perpendicular means it's opposite reciprocal. Well, the opposite reciprocal of this is going to be -1 over 1. So if I write my equation, I have y plus 1 is equal to -1 x. Again, it should have been -4, so I'll put -4 there. Okay, so that's what we worked on last week, is writing equations, point-slope form of the line. This week, we're going to be talking about functions. Functions and function notation, and domain and range of a function. So usually, when we're going to determine whether a relation between two variables are functions, and use function notations. There's a couple ways to represent a function. You can do it verbally, in a sentence, numerically, graphically, or algebraically. To determine whether a relation is a function, you must decide whether each input value is matched with exactly one output value. When any input value is matched with 2 or more output values, the relation is not a function. Now, the easiest way to be able to tell this is using what is called the vertical line test. The vertical line test says that if you draw a vertical line, if the points are graphed out, if you draw a vertical line and it only touches one point, it is a function. So part C, this one is a function. This one here, 2 goes to 11, 2 goes to 10. This is not a function, definitely not a function, because you have the same x value going to 2 different y values. Now, if I graph this out, look what happens. 2 goes to 11, so 1, 2, up 11, 2, 10, over 2, up 10. Those points are right above each other, so if you drew a vertical line, it touches both of them. So the vertical line doesn't work. So anytime I get a graph or if I get values, I always just plug them. I just plot the points and just draw a vertical line down to see if it makes sense or not, or if it touches in two places. Okay, so that makes it pretty easy to do. All right, so next one. Representing functions by sets of ordered pairs is common in discrete math. In algebra, however, it is more common to represent functions by equations or formulas involving two variables. For instance, the equation y is equal to x squared. Y is a function of x. Now, we're going to usually, this is pre-college. You guys probably have seen function notation. Usually, we'll write it this way now. F of x is equal to x squared. And if I asked you to find f of 0, what is that saying? That is saying plug 0 in for x, so 0 squared is 0. If I said, hey, find f of 2, you put 2 in for x, 2 squared is 4, so f of 2 would equal 4. So this is my x value, this is my y value. Okay, so function notation is something that you should have seen many, many times already. The domain of a function is the set of all values taken on by the independent variable x, and the range of the function is a set of all values taken on by the dependent variable y. Today we're going to be talking about how do you know what the domain is? How do you know what values you can plug into a function? And it's pretty easy. You only have to really look for 3 different things, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. When using an equation to represent a function, it is convenient to name the function for easy reference. For example, you know that the equation y is equal to 1 minus x squared describes y as a function of x. Suppose you give this function the name f, then you can use the following function notation. And that's what we're going to be using for most of the year from now on. We're not going to use y is equal to, we're going to use f of x. So f of x is equal to 1 minus x squared. So if I asked you what is f of 2, well, that means you plug 2 in for x. So 2 squared is 4, 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So f of 2 is equal to negative 3. Again, this is my x value. This is my y value when you think about this type of equation. Okay, so f of 2 really means what is the function equal to when you plug in 2 for the variable. That's what function notation is all about. The symbol f of x is read as the value of f at x, or simply f of x. The symbol f of x corresponds to the y value for the given x. So you can write y is equal to f of x. But this is where it gets, some kids, they really, they don't understand what, like if I gave you the function f of x is equal to 3 minus 2x, and I ask you what is f of 1, some kids, they really mess up here. This is your x value. This is f of x. This is your x value. So you plug 1 in for x. So this would be 3 minus 2 times 1, or 3 minus 2, which is 1. So f of 1 is equal to 1. So when the x value is 1, the y value is 1. So if you had to graph this thing, that would be a point that you would graph, 1, 1. If I wanted to know what f of 0 is equal to, I put 0 in here. So 3 minus 0, so that would equal 3. So when x equals 0, y is equal to 3. So that's your x and y value. That is function notation. And here, if you plug values in, f of negative 1 is equal to 3 minus 2 times negative 1, which is 5. F of 0 is equal to 3. F of 2 is equal to negative 1. So you can just plug that in. Okay? Function notation. And this variable here is what variable you should be using in your function. So if you have x, then you know your variable in your function is x. If you have f of t, then the variable is t. If you have g of s, you know the variable is s. That's just what it means. I mean, you can have anything. You can have f of z, but if you have f of z, then you know your function is going to be like 2z plus 3 or something like that. That's your variable that you'll be using in the function. All right. Evaluate the function. F of x equals 3x minus 13. Evaluate f of negative 1. Well, f of negative 1 really means that I'm going to plug negative 1 into my function. So this is 3 times negative 1 minus 13. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3 minus 13 is negative 16. So f of negative 1 is equal to negative 16. Evaluate the function. This one's a little bit tougher. G of s plus 11. Well, that means I'm going to plug this in for the variable. So I've got, G s plus 11 is equal to 10 minus 4, and then wherever I see the variable, I'm going to put s plus 11. So I'm going to simplify this down. So that's going to be 10 minus, I'm going to multiply through here. So that's going to be negative 4s plus negative 44. So this is going to be negative 4s minus 34. Negative 4s minus 34, negative 4s minus 34. I'm going to go with letter D here for that one. Good problem. Love those types. Evaluate the function when x equals negative 1, 0, or 1. Now, this is a piecewise function. The first thing you have to do is figure out which function are you going to plug it into. And this tells you what your domain is. So any x value less than 0, so negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, you use this function. Any value greater than or equal to 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, you're going to use this function. So if I ask you to find f of negative 1, I have to use this function. So negative 1 squared is 1 plus 1, so that would equal 2. If I ask you to find f of 0, well, that means I have to use this function. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. If I ask you to find f of 1, I'd have to use this function again. 1 minus 1 is 0. So when you have a piecewise function, the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out, okay, which function am I going to use? Because I can't just use the same one all the time. You have to decide where the domain is going to be. So in this problem here, it says evaluate the function f of negative 2. So my x value is negative 2. So x is less than 1, x is greater than 1. Well, negative 2 is definitely less than 1. So I'm going to use this function here. So that's going to be negative 2 squared plus 9. Well, negative 2 squared is 4 plus 9, which is 13. So I'm going to go with letter E for that one. Complete the table. Okay, so now you have to look at this. So all of these values here, I'm going to use the top function. Even 0, because this is x is less than or equal to 0, so 0 does go into the top function. I'm going to use the bottom function for these two. Bottom, I should have said top for this one. So if I put negative 10 in here, negative 1/2 times negative 10, that's 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. If I put negative 6 in here, negative 1/2 times negative 6 is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. If I put 0 in here, that's just 4. Then if I put 1 into this bottom one, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. If I put 5 in the bottom, 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So that should be my table for that one. The domain of a function. The domain is all of the values that fit into a function. There's 3 types of problems that you can get. You can get polynomials, you can get rationals, or radicals, or rationals. Okay? If you get a polynomial, any polynomial, I don't care what the polynomial is, it can be the craziest polynomial, 1/2 x squared plus 3x plus 5. Anytime you have a polynomial and you want to know what the domain is, it is all real numbers. Why is it all real numbers? Because you can plug any number in here you want. You can put 0 in here. You can put 10 in here. You can put negative 50 in here. You can put negative 70 in here. It doesn't matter what you put in here. You're going to get a value out. That's why anytime you have a polynomial, the domains are all real numbers. Okay? Boom. Now, when you have a radical, it's not the same thing. So this goes for polynomials. Will always be all real numbers. A radical. So let's say I gave you the square root of 2x plus 5. You can't put every single number in here. Why not? Because radicals aren't defined when it's negative inside. So if I said x equals negative 3, put that in there. Negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. Nope. That is not true. Cannot have a negative in there when we're dealing with just rational answers here. If we're talking about imaginary, yeah, then we could, but we're not. So -3 is not a solution. So how do you find the domain when you're given a radical? Super easy. All you do is you take whatever's inside. I don't care what it is. You put 2x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 0, and you solve this. Once you solve it, that is your range. So I'm going to subtract off 5. So I got 2x is greater than or equal to -5. I'm going to divide through by 2. So x is greater than or equal to -5/2, which is -2.5. So x is greater than or equal to -2.5. Anything greater than -2.5 will make this function true, so I can use it as my domain. So if you ever have a radical and they ask you what the domain is, just take whatever's inside the radical, set it greater than or equal to 0, and solve. And that will be your domain. All right? So that takes care of two of them. Polynomials, always all real numbers. Radicals, you set whatever's inside greater than or equal to 0, solve, and that will be your domain. Rationals. Rationals are interesting. So let's say I had 2x plus 4 over 2x plus 4. No, that's weird. 2x plus 4 over 2x minus 1. Okay? Rationals are always going to be all real numbers except whatever makes the denominator equal to 0. What makes the denominator equal to 0 in this problem? 1/2. So it's all real numbers except when x equals 1/2. You can't put 1/2 in there because if you put 1/2 in here, 2 times 1/2 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. You cannot divide by 0. That is that. So it's if you are given a rational number, it is, or a rational function is everything except whatever makes the denominator equal to 0, because then you're dividing by 0. Can't be. So finding the domain of a function is really easy to do. You just have to figure out, is it a polynomial, is it a radical, or is it a rational? And then you just use the rules. So in this problem, I have, they want to know what the domain is. It's all real numbers except, okay, what makes it bottom 0? Well, I can factor that. That's x plus 2x minus 2. So it's all real numbers except x cannot equal 2 or -2. Boom. If you write it out just like that, I'd be really happy with that. Okay, and then it's right down here. It says domain consists of all real numbers other than positive or -2. All right. How about this one? Square root of x. Well, this is easy. There's not much in there. So x is greater than or equal to 0. Boom. That's my domain. My domain is going to be all real numbers greater than or equal to 0. Okay. That was an easy radical one. So here it says find the domain of each. Well, when they give me value or just points, the domain is all the x values. So in this problem, the domain is -3, -1, 0, 2, and 4. Done. That's my domain. In this one, all real numbers except x can't be 5. X can't be -5. Sorry about that, because that makes it equal to 0. Volume of a sphere. Well, a sphere has to be positive, so I would say R is greater than or equal to 0, because you can't have a negative number here, because we're talking about the volume of a sphere. A sphere can't go inside of itself. So that one's kind of a thinking type problem. I mean, it's like, you can't have a negative volume. So I would just say R is greater than or equal to 0. And the last one, 4 minus 3x, it's a radical. Just set it greater than or equal to 0. Bring the 4 over, so -3x is greater than or equal to -4. Divide through by -3. Uh-oh. If I multiply or divide by a negative number, I've got to flip my inequality. So that would be 4/3. And that is how we find the domain. We haven't talked anything about range this week, right? We're just talking about domain. What are the numbers that we can plug into a function? That is what domain is. Okay? It says find the domain of the function. Well, polynomial function. It's all real numbers. Done. Pretty easy.